Do you remember Ben Powers? You know, the guy who played his Thelma husband, Keith Anderson, on the show Good Times. Have you ever wondered what happened to him? And did you know that the work that his great-great-grandmother did is in the Smithsonian Museum and the National Museum of History? Well, let's get into it. Alton Aldebert Powers, 64, was a comedian, actor, composer, and artist, also known as Alton Ben Powers or Ben Powers, best known for his role as Thelma Evans' husband and football player Keith Anderson in the 1970s hit series Good Times, has died. Ben also played Moochie on the CBS TV hit Mickey Spillane's whatever, I know I'm saying that wrong, Mike Hammer, starring with Stacy Keach. Ben made numerous TV guest appearances on Give Me a Break, Flamingo Road, The Greatest American Hero, The New Odd Couple, Laverne and Shirley, and the PBS film Brother to Dragons. In addition to his TV work, Ben appeared in a number of films in the 1980s, including Cheech Chong's next movie, Things Are Tough All Over, and The Man Who Loved Women. Ben was born in the Jewish hospital in Brooklyn, New York on July 5th, 1950. He was raised with his siblings in the Providence, Rhode Island home of his deceased grandparents, his grandfather, Aldebert, in which he got his middle name from, and his grandmother, Elizabeth Thomas, and his aunts. As a young man, Ben was a choir member at the First Tabernacle in Providence, Rhode Island. He attended Hope High School and later Rhode Island College's Upward Bound program. Ben also loved to sketch and paint, attending classes at the Rhode Island School of Design before turning to acting. His great-great-grandmother was the former slave Harriet Powers, creator of the Bible quilt. Her quilts are part of the permanent collections at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., the Museum of Fine Art in Boston, Massachusetts, and the National Museum of History in Washington, D.C. Ben began his acting career at the Trinity Repertory Theater in Providence, Rhode Island under Adrian Hall. A gifted pianist, composer, and singer, Ben incorporated his beautiful singing voice and impressions into his stand-up comedy routines. He was discovered in Providence, where he signed with a Hollywood agent and went on to perform at Playboy clubs in New York, Los Angeles, and Boston. His first TV appearances were on NBC TV series Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, where he was a regular and featured in skits with Robin Williams and Betty Davis, among others. Alton Ben Powers passed away on April 6, 2015 at the age of 64 in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Ben is survived by his mother, two sisters, Yvonne Brown and Maya Brewer, cousins, uncles, aunts, and a host of other families and friends, and he is preceded in death by his brother, Arnold Pete Salzman, and his sister, Sherry Lynn Powers. Ben was perhaps best loved and remembered for his performance on Good Times. He was a gifted artist who loved animals and delighted those around him with his wit and intellect. His kind and gentle temperament will be sorely missed. Now, what you hear me reading from is this obituary that I found online, and nowhere in that did you hear me mention anything about a wife and children. But then as I furthered my research, this is what I found. Powers married Julia Harper, born 1950 to 2012, on May 4th, 1981. They would have 4 daughters, twins, Malia Cameron Powers and Rayleigh, something like that, Cameron Powers, Augusta Valerie Powers, and Simone Emerson Powers. Powers died of liver cancer on April 6, 2015, at the age of 64 and was cremated. Now, when I read that, I said, Rich, I didn't see that on Wikipedia. It's not in his obituary, and it's not like, it could be that they wanted to hide that information, but then in that case, they wouldn't have put the information of his siblings and stuff, especially the ones that's still alive. So anyway, I furthered my research, and when I went and looked, I did see Malia Cameron Powers and Raleigh, whatever Cameron Powers, supposedly the twins, but in that, they were only connected to him. I didn't find them with anything else. I didn't find them really connected to a Julia Harper. Couldn't really find Julia Harper. Couldn't find the twins or the other daughters anywhere else when I did my research. So, I don't know. Now, a little information about his great-great-grandmother. Harriet Powers was born into slavery on October 29, 1837 in Clark County, Georgia, on a plantation owned by John and Nancy Lester. There are few details about her early life as a child and young adult. According to the 1870 census, she married Armstead Powers, a farmhand, in 1855 at the age of 18, and the couple had 9 children. The first known display of Powers quilts were in 1886 at a cotton fair in northeast Georgia. Jenny Smith, an artist and art teacher at the Lucy Cobb Institute in Athens, Georgia, approached Powers about purchasing the quilt displayed, but Powers declined to sell it. The cotton quilt consisted of numerous pictorial squares depicting biblical scenes. They were constructed through piecework and were a mixture of hand and machine stitched. Smith and Powers remained in touch, and when Powers fell on hard times about 5 years later, she agreed to sell the quilt for $5, which is about $138 in 2020. At the time of the sale, Powers explained the imagery in the squares and Smith recorded the descriptions. Powers' quilts were displayed at regional art fairs, and she received commission for her work. Her quilts were known for their rich storytelling and considered remarkable examples of folk art and history. Only 2 of Powers' quilts survive today, the Bible quilt and the pictorial quilt. The Bible quilt is in the Smithsonian Institution National Museum of American History, and the pictorial quilt is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Harriet Powers passed in 1910. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Remember when I read the obituary? In the obituary, I said that it did not mention Ben had a wife, grandchildren, or children. Also in the obituary, it mentioned his mother, but it did not give his mother's name. It did not mention his father's name. It said that he was raised by his grandparents and his aunts. And it also mentioned that he had 2 sisters still alive, Maya and Yvonne. And then it mentioned that he had a sister that passed and a brother that passed. Well, I found some information about his mother that his sister, Maya Brewer, put on her Facebook page, and it says, "My sister Yvonne Brown and I celebrate my mother, Eloise Christian Powers. Today, she would be 91 years old." Maya Brewer wrote this on November 11th, 2020. It says, "Today is my mother's birthday. I remember the wonderful stories she often shared with us while reminiscing about her life experiences. One of the stories she often told on her birthday still touches my heart. When she was young, her brothers Jack Norman and her sister Liz would take her to the Veterans Day parade. They told her that the parade was for her. She would smile sweetly, adding, 'I believed them, and I was happy about it.'" I found a picture of his sister Yvonne. I really didn't search to find any other information about her, but I did find his sister Maya. There's a lot of information out there about her. It says, a native of Rhode Island, Maya was raised with the strong influence of her grandparents, which is the same thing that Ben said, a foundation that helped shape the life she would live into. Then it also goes on to say that she has been teaching the practice of yoga to support health and well-being for decades. Maya found that the yoga retreat for women of color in 1998 to share the benefits of yoga and meditation with participants from around the world. Ben's mother, Eloise Thomas Powers, was born on November 11th, 1929, and it says that she studied fashion illustration at an early age. She graduated from high school in Brooklyn, New York. Eloise, a gifted visual arts, was awarded a scholarship to attend the Rhode Island School of Design. She loved to sing and was quite a singer and was placed in the church choir by evangelist H.B. Watkins. She married Alton Powers in 1945 and had 5 children, and she traveled extensively throughout Europe to Italy, France, and Spain, and often spoke of her visits to see the wonderful art and sculptures of the masters. In her later years, she returned to Rhode Island and was an active member of the First Tabernacle Church, serving as a gifted singer in the choir and as a trustee, and she was known to her family and friends as Wheezy and Mommy to her children. After reading all of this, I'm assuming that's why the kids had to be raised by their grandparents because of her career. Anyway, Eloise Christine Thomas Powers passed on July 7th, 2019 at the age of 89. Sadly, Ben's sister, Yvonne Claire Powers, just passed away on September 27th, 2023. She was 75 years old. And then the sister, Sherry Lynn Powers, who had already previously passed away, she passed on October 11th, 1976. She was 20 years old. And then his brother, Arnold Allen Pete Salzman, passed on February 25th, 1990. He was 35 years old. Ben's mom obituary says that she married Alton Powers in 1945 and had 5 children, so this must be Ben's father, and it sounds like he's a junior. As we reflect on the life and career of Alton Aldebert Powers, better known as Ben Powers, it's clear he was a talent gone too soon. From his memorable role as Keith Anderson on Good Times to his extensive work in television and beyond, his impact remains undeniable. While he may have stepped away from the spotlight in his later years, his performances continue to bring joy to fans of the show to this day. I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share this video and subscribe to Genevas Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Genevas Closet, and you can email me at GenevasClosett22@gmail.com. You all have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
When the sun shines bright